fuckers. I am the Cum Lord. Nacho Sushi. Who the fuck is that? Sounds like something you order at a cheap gay fusion restaurant.
What is up, you heathens and demons, you sinners and saints, you beautiful blasphemous bastards. Welcome back to The Raging Atheist. I am going to pretty much be off camera this whole stream. I'm going to be sitting back, chilling with y'all, smoking weed as we watch this shit. This is the first time I'm actually watching it back. Now, I participated in it, so I have a good recollection of what happened. But this will be the first time I'm actually watching it back, and I'm going to be watching it back with you. And I'm going to start it pretty much right where I ended the edited video, kind of promoting this a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. This has been like 2 weeks since I've had this conversation with CJ. One of the few times over the last month and a half that I went into a room to have a conversation. But what's up, chat? This is going to be a good stream, a fun stream. Like I was going to announce it and give it several days, probably do it on Friday. But something happened that I caught notice of that I wanted to mention briefly. So I decided to go ahead and just kind of do an impromptu stream today. So what's up? What's up, Red Fang? Red Fang, you might be familiar with what I'm going to be showing today. This happened in Jay Spasic's YouTube channel in his room about 2 weeks ago. What's up, Callie C, Tentaise? I always say that wrong. What's up, Tent? Lee Spanner. I'm sure more will join us, and this was impromptu, and I haven't been streaming on the regular. Really surprised I didn't lose more subs. I lost a few, but only like 2 or 3, considering I haven't been putting out content. That will change. I'm going to get more consistent. It won't be as much content as before, but it will be consistent content that you guys can look forward to. And I do think that I will be streaming pretty regularly once a week. I've been kind of iffy about that. But now I've been, somewhat disconnected from all social media, not just here on YouTube. But I still see kind of what happens on Facebook. I still see what happens on Twitter. But I pretty much disconnected from all social media platforms, just rebooting my brain over the last, month and a half. Ever since, I started taking these health issues seriously. But I saw something on Facebook that at first I was like, nuh-uh. And that was that Justin Downing, the empathetic atheist, has converted to Islam. And I was like, I had a nuh-uh moment. I saw it on Your Friendly Neighborhood Atheist Facebook, his personal Facebook page, and I didn't even comment in it because I was just like, nuh-uh. I've been on Justin's show once. Justin and Wes Studervant treated me awesome. So I don't really have anything bad to say about Justin. Now James Fuckface over there, the theist over there, didn't like me too much, but I'm used to theists not liking me, especially not liking the things that I say. So that wasn't a surprise. But when I saw that, I didn't believe it, even though Ethan had said that it's something that's been happening on his channel for everybody to see over the last few streams. I haven't even went back to check it out. But I find this interesting when atheists, especially atheists that have spent some time and effort to making their name known for atheism, convert. And it's rare, but it does happen. And to see it happen live just kind of confirms not every Christian out there saying that they used to be an atheist is lying, although I still believe the vast majority of them are. But I did see, and I'm not sure what all happened in the comments there, but some things must have happened because Justin's wife came in to defend her husband. And I'm not speaking bad about that, but I do want to say, that it's to be expected that you're going to lose relationships when you convert, especially in the atheist community. And I understand that you think it's hypocritical, but it really isn't. So I want to explain why some people might be distancing themselves now, because and still like Justin as a person. It's because, and hopefully more and more atheists are going to start to see this, especially humanist atheists such as myself, because this is a realization that I've had to come to myself, is that even though it's vital that we continue to see theists as humans, as human beings, it's equally as vital to see theists as the enemy. And when you switch those teams, yes, we can still see you as a human being, but you are indeed the enemy now. And especially if you're going to convert to what I would consider to be one of the most base forms of Abrahamics. One of the Islam, in my opinion, is stuck in the Mid Ages. They haven't had a great reform like Christianity did, the Reformation. They're kind of stuck there. Now you have moderate and progressive Muslims all across the world, and I'm quite sure that Justin would be one of those. But to come back into that religion, I can understand why a lot of atheists might take issue with that. But also there's this, because Justin is one of those atheists that are more philosophical, and it's kind of going to relate to what we're going to watch today, because I'm going to call it out once or twice in this room, if I'm remembering accurately, and I'm guilty of this as well. And this is something that I have to get better at. But if you give theist room, so if you're a philosophical atheist and you're willing to grant some of those philosophical arguments to theists, well, then that's opening you up to believing that shit. And I think that's what we've seen. So I don't know necessarily how I feel about it. I don't think I really have any inclination to feel anything about it. I wish Justin the best. He seemed like a nice dude, but you're gonna have some issues there, definitely. And it's bad enough. It's hard for me to understand, atheists that especially if you claim to be somewhat progressive and a free thinker, it's hard enough for me to understand, relapsing back into Christianity, but to go to fucking Islam, that's uncomprehendable to me. I don't understand, if there's a void there in your atheism and you need something, there are atheistic religions out there that aren't going to be dogmatic in nature. Buddhism is a prime example. You don't have to fall back on this bullshit Abrahamics and then give credence to it. And hey, Dr. Josh, it was Justin Downing. Now I saw this on Facebook, but I did see his wife kind of jump in, and that's what kind of showed me that it was real. And that's all right. So I'm gonna comment on this. So what's up, Dr. Josh? But yeah, it's hard for me to understand it, but I do wish him the best, and hopefully he'll keep an open mind and come back to the light, my friend, because Islam, to me, it's atrocious. And to me, when you convert to Islam, you might be telling yourself that you're moderate in your beliefs. But when you convert to that religion, you're taking all that baggage. You're accepting all that baggage. You're accepting the atrocities being committed to gay people in the Middle East. You're accepting the child genital mutilations and the female genital mutilations. I mean, you're accepting that, and you're saying, hey, it's cool. I still want to believe in that God. And people are going to have some issues with that. So yeah. There's that. Is Knox having a Cox problem? But yeah, so I'm not talking shit. Like I said, I enjoyed the one time I went on his program, but I saw that, and I saw his wife talking about hypocrisy in the atheist community when it comes to this, and I'm like, it's not hypocrisy. We can still see you as a human being and understand that you are now our enemy. Other atheists aren't going to put it to you that way. I will. I will. I really give no fucks anymore. I'm not gonna sit here and moderate my rhetoric any longer. Life's too short for that. Life's too short. But yes, I do have a Cox problem. Jay, what's up, Jay? This happened on Jay Pasic's channel. So if you guys aren't watching Jay Pasic, you really should go over there. He gets really in-depth, really has really good long streams. So if you enjoy conversations, especially if you're a person like me that likes to keep them in the background as you clean, perfect channel for you. You're going to have plenty of cleaning time as you listen to some really good conversations. So go sub to Jay Pasic. Usually I would put that in the link, or usually I would say I was going to try to put that in the description or whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm terrible at that shit. Just go sub. We are going to get into this, though. So, I said, I've been kind of back and forth on whether or not I wanted to show it, because it is me confronting a Christian again. And I'm like back and forth on whether or not I want to rebrand my image, be more positive, which I'm fairly certain that I'm going to try to do, at least be more positive in the way that I speak and the nature of my words. I'm already cursing here, but I'm really going to try to work on not cursing so much, be a gentler knock, while at the same time being the raging atheist. So we're going to get right into it. I pretty much started it off where I ended the video. I was looking for a fight that night, guys. Now, I've already said it. I was thinking about fighting with Doubting Thomas and Jay here over, a little comment that they made to John. Not any big deal, but I was like considering going in and starting that fight there. And then I'm like, nah, it's not really that big a deal. And John never really got too mad about it. So, why should I go in and pick a fight? And then CJ shows up, and I was able to pick a fight. And I want to put this out there before we start, because I've often said that CJ seems more moderate or more even-toned or more pleasant to talk to than some other Christians, and he is. And it's because, he knows how to articulate his arguments, and he's not going to sit there and just be reprehensibly reproachful of you for being an atheist. He's going to actually have a conversation with you, and I enjoy that. I really do. But we cannot see him as any different than any other Christian. I do not see CJ Cox as any different from Matt Powell, because CJ Cox will sit there and tell you the same exact fucking thing that Matt Powell will tell you, and that is because the Bible says. If you are a Christian and you believe everything that the fucking Bible says, you are indeed an enemy without a doubt and should be treated as such. You're still a human being, but I'm not going to grant you any ground in your argumentation to appease your sensibilities. I'm just not going to do that anymore. I'm going to treat you like I would treat a Matt Powell, because you are essentially the same. So, with that being the premise for what we're going to watch, I have my camera turned off today. I have the bear up because I'm expecting to be the bear today. And I'm going to have fun. I'm going to sit here and smoke weed and watch this shit with you guys, because this is the first time I'm really watching it back as well. So let's get right into it. My last confrontation, my most current confrontation with CJ Cox. Even CJ will concede that slavery existed in ancient Israel. He'll just tell you that we should still have it.
To be fair, I do have a debate actually with Knox talking about that. I do think that the slavery system is portrayed in the Bible is an ethical form of slavery. I'm sure pretty much everybody here has probably seen that.
I'm not ragging on you. I'm just bringing up the fact that you are a Christian and you do recognize that Israel had legitimate slavery. Right?
It's just like the NBA, really.
But I would like to know who is it ethical for, though? Is it ethical for only people in society selling themselves to one another, or if it's somebody from the outside where I can go and I can get a slave from the nation around me and have them and pass them down as inherited property?
Well, so I think that there's kind of a couple things to be said on that particular note. So the first thing is, I think that, the Bible is quite clear in numerous places that the law for the stranger and the law for the native born are supposed to be the same. Now, there are some notable differences there where it's mostly true that the law for the native born, the law for the foreigners.
Now, I almost started it a little bit earlier just to show you guys what little interactions that Jay and Praise had, because Praise said some really ridiculous shit. Pretty much like slavery couldn't exist because everybody in the world is a fucking Jew, yo. There are no foreigners, Praise. It was hilarious, and I almost showed you guys that, but it was really brief. It didn't last very long. Praise is ultimately a coward. So I decided not to show that.
Same, but there's some exceptions, like the 6-year rule when you buy a slave, right?
Yeah, if it's a native born, if it's a native slave, it's an Israelite selling himself into slavery because he's destitute.
Right. However, I think that it would not be textually accurate to say that because that one law does seem to be Hebrew specific, therefore the rest of the laws are also Hebrew specific, namely about like beating your slaves and sleeping with your slaves and things of that nature, right? And I would point out, by the way, that this is not something that is like a unique fundamentalist kind of opinion, right? Typically when you have debates between Christians and atheists on this issue, that is something that the atheist will usually concede to start with. Josh Bowen is somebody who I quote frequently to try and get back at people because he's an atheist, but he has...
Like Dr. Josh, that has to kind of feel good now that like Christians are always putting your name in their mouth as the atheist scholar. That has to make you feel pretty good, my dude. I envy you that kind of because like when they have my name in their mouth, it's like reprehensible shit that they're saying. So like to have that level of respect, like even people like Icky Taint when he goes after Dr. Josh, it's with a level of respect that he gives nobody else, and that has to feel good for my main dude, Dr. Josh.
In fact, now I can say with confidence that it's happened twice because I'm pretty sure Rage, and you can correct me on this if I'm misremembering, you asked him about whether or not this was actually the case. When they're saying, like, for example, the beating of the Hebrew slave, right? Knocking the tooth, chipping the eye, all that kind of, or hang on, other way around. But you know what I mean, right? Just because that is written in such a way that it's saying when you buy the Israelite, right? It's kind of like saying when a man murders another man, it's not saying that women can get away with murder, right? And it would not be textually accurate to say that that in all of these instances, these laws actually refer specifically to Hebrews themselves. Even though in some of them they definitely do. Like there are, like I said, the 6-year rule is clearly Hebrew specific.
Yeah, but
I would maintain that, like the laws of the Hebrew Bible are directed towards Hebrews, right? And maybe anybody inside Hebrew land, but it's pretty much directed at Hebrews and giving them guidance, giving Hebrews guidance on how to live in their fucked up society because God is bad at planning.
Okay,
he is really bad at planning.
So you would agree. So you don't necessarily agree with what Praise is saying that all of these nations are.
And if I'm remembering correctly, like that might be a theme here. That is something that I am kind of rubbing in Christians' faces here lately because it's so true. For God to be such an omni God, like omni everything, he really sucks at his job. And it's really easy to see that. Like, I wish I had the job security that Yahweh does. If I had that type of job security, I'd go to work just acting fucking off all the fuck I want because I could do anything. Yahweh has more job security than a fucking weatherman.
Are all Israelites?
Yeah, definitely not. Okay. In fact, I would even.
Yeah, Jay, Dr. Josh came out, started claiming atheism, I'd say about 6 to 8 months ago. Yeah, he just doesn't like promote it. But yeah, he talked about it openly on Skylar Fiction, I do believe, a couple times.
I'd even go a little bit farther. I think the Hebrew Apiru connection is bogus. And by the way, for the record, the scholars who agree with a Hebrew Apiru connection would still maintain this is theoretical. It is not a fact by any stretch of the imagination. Right?
Yeah, and then even when you read, and even like if you read Dr. Josh's book, he even talks about what it talks about. Even just if you're just reading, if you just ignore the whole confusion, right, of getting into the nuance or the particulars of this one word, you just read the narrative and you read it in its context. Who is it referring to? Well, it's referring to Evids and then Evid Ivris. Okay, why is it making that why Hebrew or Hebrew slave versus just an Evid or a foreign Evid? And so it's making those distinctions, just like it does when it says that in Leviticus 25 that the Hebrew, the Israelite that sells himself into slavery to you, is not to be treated as a slave, but as a hired worker. So it makes a distinction there. right? And and it says you will not rule over. Says you will not rule over your fellow Hebrew ruthlessly. And then it goes into that because I had led you out of the land of Israel and all that. But there is actually a time where the Israelites got into some trouble where when they were told, there was like it sounded like it was a mass manumission where basically God said, release everybody. I think that's Jeremiah.
Now, I do understand that most YouTubers would have this on a higher speed. And that's something that John always tried to get me to do. And it's something, that's hard for me because of my OCD. It really bothers and triggers my OCD for some reason. I don't know why. But that is, ultimately the reason why I usually don't do that, especially if I'm in the room, because I talk fast. I talk faster than most people. And so it doesn't really bother me if I slow down, Icky Taint because he talks slow. If I speed myself up, it just fucks me up. So that's why I don't do that, guys.
34. But the Israelites took their slaves back. They forced them back.
Well, and there's actually numerous instances kind of sprinkled throughout the prophets of the Israelites being chastised for mistreating not only slaves, but foreigners, widows, orphans, the poor. It's something that God does show an awful lot of, assuming, of course, that he's the source, that he shows an awful lot of concern for throughout the prophets. And even in the law itself, I would again say that in Leviticus, it is noted numerous times. And not just in Leviticus, but Exodus and Deuteronomy and elsewhere also. But just in the Torah is the point that the foreign born is supposed to be treated as if they were native born. To the best of my.
Well, I would disagree with that. They were to be circumcised so that they could. It was told.
I just love it when Christians say absolute nonsense. I just love that. The foreign born is to be treated like the native born. Go tell that to the Canaanites, my dude. Please. Oh, you can't, can you?
Told that they would have to circumcise the foreign slaves in order for the foreign slaves
What's
to
up,
participate
praise,
in
brain
certain
bug?
things that the Israelites
What's going on, my dude? Praise.
But it does not say that those Hebrew slaves were necessary.
Let me pause this. I understand, slavery in the Bible, that's your thing. And I have fun with you, but dude, this whole thing about, everybody in the world's an Israelite, that shit was funny, my dude. That shit was funny.
Or those foreign slaves were given the same considerations as Israelite slaves who had sold themselves into slavery to their fellow Israelite.
Well, and
right,
so
just like there's the verse. I'm sorry to interrupt, but just real quick. Just like there's the verse about an Israelite selling himself to a rich sojourner that lives among them. The sojourner basically has to basically abide by the same rules as All
right, so now this is gonna be a longer stream, guys, and we're into the pleasantries right now. So I picked the fight, and I'm biding my time. Here in a few minutes, it shouldn't take long. Jay is thinking about ending the stream, and I'm like, and a couple other people are like, and Jay is like, all right, so we're gonna continue the stream. And he went and did his work thing, and that's when me and CJ get into it. So we're just building up, y'all. We're just at the beginning.
An Israelite would to a fellow Israelite in those conditions.
Right.
Well, yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, CJ. You just pretty much said that God showed compassion numerous times for slavery and all this bullshit. Did God show compassion for the Mennonites? How about any of the Canaanite kingdoms? Did God show compassion to those people?
Well, first off, that's not actually relevant because they're two different.
Well, it is sure. It is surely. And I pointed it out to you guys as he said it. They treated the foreign born the same as the native born, and then I bring it up, and he's like, "Well, that doesn't really, that doesn't apply." Is because you're maintaining that God is showing compassion when He sets up a system of slavery in ancient Israel, and I'm asking, did God show compassion to the women of the Mennonites?
Well, I would say that's kind of
And I'm totally obliterating that pronunciation. This was actually really late at night for me, fully into my new medications and all that shit. So I might be saying it right. I might not, but I often tend to think my pronunciations are wrong. So
that's not very fair because it's not necessarily.
And how is it not? Do you know when you like do stuff that you tell yourself not to do, right? So like I'm really conscientious of laughing too much on stream. Watching back streams, I think that I laugh too much, and I think it's like I want to call it a nervous reaction, but it's not due to nerves. It's just I think it's a reaction sometimes when I say the truth or when I'm speaking the truth, and then I try to giggle it off. And I want to stop doing that shit. So like, and then to do it, and you notice yourself doing it. Those are the worst moments in your human existence, in my opinion, because it's like you're unable to control yourself, and it sucks. Fair. I mean, he made the claim that God was showing compassion towards these slaves. So many people. What's up, guys?
Well,
and I'm just simply asking: did God show compassion towards the people taken in warfare when they conquered the Midianites?
Well, I'm talking about saying it's a system of slavery that God set up. The thing is that God's not commanding them to have slaves, but it says that you may own slaves, right?
Well, I don't get that. How not? How is God not commanding that Israelites own slaves when God created the laws?
Well, he's saying that they're allowed to, right? They're not commanded to own them; they're allowed to own slaves.
Well, that's what I'm saying. God created this system that allowed them to own slaves, right?
Yes. And then
all right, that's exactly what I said.
Okay, I just wanted clarification then. Yeah, that's better.
And yeah, I love Jay, but that night I was in no mood. Because I'm, and it's not just Jay, because I think Jay does a hell of a job confronting Christians and having the conversations out. But like I'm just so frustrated, mainly when I do it myself. Granting ground to Christians just to grant it, it really drives me crazy. And I did it, like Dr. Josh has pointed it to a couple times in this very argument where I do it, and it's like that is a realization that I have come to recently, and it's I think that we need to stop doing that. I really do. Like, we cannot grant them any fucking ground. They put all their stock in this Bible. This Bible says what the fuck it says. They're the one says that makes the claim that this is the infallible word of God. We have to stop giving them ground to operate in that, because that's their claim. They need to back it up. I told you, I'm going to be bare today.
Well, my only point in saying they're not relevant is just that, like, the slaughter of the Canaanites or whatever group happens to be slaughtered is not the same question, obviously, as slavery. That's why we have different discussions and debates and stuff like that for those.
Well, sure it is. I mean, what I believe it was, I think it was Joshua, but like the general that went to the Midianites, I believe it. I could be saying that wrong. But that sounds familiar to me. The general that went there and showed compassion for the women and children and brought them back, and Moses, under the command of God, told them to kill them. Was that compassion? I mean, was God showing compassion for those slaves that the Israelites took in that situation?
Well, there's a lot of situations in the Bible where God.
Well, yeah, I'm using the worst of them, but like the Canaanites, I mean, all of them were. I mean, we're talking atrocities under God's command. God commanded, the kingdom's far away. Yeah, you could take slaves, but those Canaanites killed them all, right?
Yeah, we see them as atrocities because. Yeah, but for these people, it was a way of basically justifying.
We see them as atrocity. Let's be honest, Jay. We see them as atrocities because Canaan saw his dad naked because his dad was drunk and naked.
Well,
right.
Canaan,
I mean, that's where it started. That's where it started.
Addressed here because
And real quick, I would have to say, and I would have to maintain, if there was some kind of global network of information back there, more civilized societies probably would have taken fucking issue with the way Israel carried out those atrocities. You know, just because the people that carried out the atrocities doesn't see it as atrocity, doesn't mean it's not a fucking atrocity. We're talking about xenocide. We're talking about the extinction of a race of human beings. Because God said to. And it all does, it stems back to that. And I'm getting this, I'm getting the story somewhat wrong here. Like I said, it's late. I'm well into my medications here. In fact, I cut it off at midnight. I tell everybody, all right, midnight, cut off, I got to go. Time to go to bed. But just because the Israelites didn't see it as atrocity does not mean it wasn't a fucking atrocity. You know, we still have plenty of Americans here in this country trying to say what happened to the Native Americans wasn't an atrocity, wasn't a genocide. They're wrong.
That was
so
Ham.
The first point
Ham was the other one. Canaan was the
Canaan's
son.
the one who gets cursed. Ham is the one who actually sees Noah. That's how that worked out. Okay, so that's just to get that out of the way.
Yeah, and I do think that's where I'm butchering the story. It's I think Ham sees his father, but Canaan is the one for some reason that gets the curse.
So,
okay. You're correct. Ham saw him naked.
Continue to point out before I move on. This is an absolute perfect example of a red herring. Okay, right. This again, slaughter is a different.
I love it when you're so nice to me, Praise. I am a big dumb animal, and so are you. Technically. Your Bible's a red herring. Are you admitting that your Bible's a red herring?
Anyway, hang on. I'm going to answer your question anyway.
I go laughing.
Even though it is a clear and perfect example of red herring. Okay.
Your Bible's a red herring. I got you, dog.
Have you actually read Numbers 31?
Yeah, several times, but remind me. Like I don't have it pulled up right now.
Well, so why does Moses say to kill the women who are kept alive? Do you remember?
Probably he's an incel.
No. So, obviously.
Are you sure he wasn't the first incel, CJ?
Yeah, absolutely. He was married, had children. But at any rate, so,
I mean, just because you're married and have children, does that mean you can't be an incel? I don't know. I'm asking. I'm not too familiar with the incel community.
So we don't remember. Okay, that's perfectly fine. Not a lot of people have even read this in context. So to be honest with you, I'd be surprised if you did. Numbers 31 says pretty clearly, and I believe verse 16, because I think 18 is the verse people typically are referencing, and 16 is just right before it, right? Why is it that you spared these women alive? And I can't quote it directly at the top of my head, actually, to be honest with you. I thought I could, but nonetheless, the point is he's saying, these are the women who caused Israel to sin, therefore slay them. And
it's the bitches' fault.
Hang on.
Blame the bitches.
Hang on. So therefore, slay them, and the women who have not known.
And you know, that's something that you see throughout the Bible. Is usually your women end up being your scapegoats throughout the entire Bible. And I love it when Christians just bring it out. You know, they don't even understand how caught up in their male patriarchy they are, and it's just hilarious to me.
A woman by known a man rather by lying with them, they're spared not as sex slaves, because sex slavery has already been forbidden in the Bible, Deuteronomy, but because they are not actually.
Sex slavery has literally been forbidden in the Bible, Deuteronomy, and yet there was sex slavery in Israel. You could literally sell your unmarried daughters into that sex slavery. So for CJ Cox to sit there and deny that, I mean, this just shows you the indoctrination that's just so evident. You got to cherry pick. You got to find that one verse that says nuh-uh, and ignore all the other verses that says uh-huh. It's so funny. It's hilarious to me. And yet we're the crazy ones. We're the ones that aren't to be respected in society because we're atheists and we have no gods.
Responsible for the crime. They cannot possibly be responsible for seducing Israelite men in a religious fashion, because temple prostitution was totally a thing, right? Because they're virgins, right? So clearly they're not guilty of this. So yes, actually, that is a perfect example of Moses showing compassion on a group of people, because they were not guilty of the sin. He did not want them to be killed as a result of the sin. You can't read the context and not see that, frankly.
Wait.
Hitler spared a few Jews. I mean, come on, dude.
Wait a minute. So there's just a little bit of a problem here. So Moses said to them, "Have you let all the women live? Behold, these on Balaam's advice caused the people of Israel to act treacherously against the Lord in the incident of Peor. And so the plague came among the congregation of the Lord. Now therefore kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman has known a man by lying with him." So they killed all of the young males as well, and the women.
And so in that instance, that's to be fair, it's a typical thing. It's not something we do in the modern day. But there is a reason why people now, and we have to be blunt about some stuff.
And this, I mean, so in case you guys aren't quite following, and if you didn't see that last debate where I lost my shit on CJ because he's sitting there literally telling you and me that we as a society should actually go back to that Israelite slavery because it's so fucking ethical. That's his position. That's his position. So when I sit here and I tell you that CJ Cox is as bad as a Matt Powell, because he literally tells you the same thing that Matt Powell says, and that thing is because the Bible says, hashtag the Bible says. And most Christians will. Christians that don't even actually read the fucking Bible will sit there and tell you what the Bible says. And you can sit there and scream until you're blue in the face and tell them, I have read this Bible front to cover so many fucking times, and they just won't hear you. And you see it plain as day with CJ here, just the cherry picking. Of course there's no sex slavery. I found that one verse that condemns it. And yet God's system and God's people allowed for that sex slavery. And I'm sorry that history shows that. And I'm sorry that your Bible shows that. Read it and get over it. Seriously.
Real quick, right? Warfare is brutal. It is a vicious, vicious, vicious beast, right? And the less vicious you get in warfare, often the worse you end up making the war in the long run. Perfect example would be...
Are you going to join the leftist train? Will you join us leftists and become anti-war then? I mean, you're so... War is atrocious. Seriously.
Let him finish.
I mean, war is atrocious, so bad shit happens, and yet we as a society hold our warriors to standards, right? Like, you just can't, a United States soldier just can't go over to the Middle East, start killing people recklessly. I mean, they do, and they get away with it all the fucking time, but that's beyond the point, because you can face ramifications. There are rules against that. And I'm sure that even then they had their own fucking rules. It's just unfortunate that their God was telling them that, the rules are pretty lax. Put your swords through them heads. And I love it because, Christians can't escape this. This is where the religion comes from. This is how it was born. And yet atheists want to focus on philosophy when the nonsense is right there at the beginning and throughout its history up to the current day. That's what's important. What actually happened, not the what ifs and could have beens or your notions of what is. Defend your statement that this system is better than what we have now. Because as imperfect as our system is now, we do actually have some modicum of free will. Freedom. Whether it be illusion or not. Don't have to worry, about my kid getting a sword through her head because she don't believe in Yahweh. Or she might have some blood of Canaan. And we can't allow Christians to escape that. Because that's the way to the truth. Is the acceptance of the reality of what actually had happened. Instead of the propaganda you have been fed your entire life. Let them finish. All right, fuck the Christians. Go ahead.
Vietnam War is a perfect example of that, right? United States soldiers. Now, Vietnam War was an illegal war to begin with. So
you fucking love war. What are you talking about?
So when you go into the Vietnam War, right? The Vietnam War was a war where we weren't really there to actually fight the war. We were there to pussyfoot around and just sit there and play quote unquote occupier and police. And the conflict lasted 25 brutal, bloody, vicious, torturous years as a result.
Are you against the Vietnam War?
Yeah, but like I literally just said.
Yeah, I mean, for what, like, you have to remember, like, CJ, like, 19. I don't even think he goes around with all of this rhetoric, this anti-leftist, anti-communist, anti-socialist rhetoric. He's such a fucking libertarian, hardcore libertarian, and maybe he is anti-war because usually that's something that progressive leftists and libertarians can agree on. But at the same time, I don't think that he is. Because just through my personal experience, the very first debate that I ever had with CJ Cox was over Confederate statues and how he was justifying that as some kind of heritage that needs to be protected. So clearly, he seems fascinated on war, and clearly he hates leftists. And, the whole Vietnam War, maybe he seems to understand history. Maybe he's not aware of it, but the whole point of it was against communism. A really shitty representation of communism, but communism. So, like, for me to sit there and listen to CJ Cox try to spit this, like, anti-war rhetoric is like, back it up with your politics, because CJ Cox supports right-wing politicians who are warmongers, who send us into these wars. So if you're so fucking anti-war, why do you vote for the people that send us into fucking wars?
If you would just listen, like, literally, that's all you have to do. It's listen. It's a very simple task. You can do it as a 3-year-old. If you would have just listened, you would have heard that I said the Vietnam War is an illegal war, but let's disregard that for a second so I can make a point.
Literally, why was the Vietnam War an illegal war?
It wasn't a war. It was a police action.
That's
I mean, I don't know what you're. I don't really know what you're saying,
Doubting Thomas, because it is literally a war in the sense that it was two people fighting, right? But we call it a police action because we were there, like, we're gonna be here, kind of keep the peace, quote unquote, play peacemaker and world builder and all that stuff, right?
Wait, let's not use Vietnam, because this is getting into Jill territory here. All right, we know that we know that the Israelites,
and that's a good job of Jay right there, because that's something that CJ Cox does. We're having a conversation about what happened in ancient Israel, and now all of a sudden we're having a conversation about Vietnam. Way to run away from the birth of your religion, CJ. Way to run away from the immorality of your God, CJ. Good job, Jay. Good job, because you did a better job there than I did.
No, don't use Iraq, because that's another presentism fallacy.
Use any American war. I love it.
Well, it's not a presentism fallacy. The point that I'm trying to make is that when you see groups like when nations go to war and they're not actually willing to defeat the enemy, to actually like put their enemy down, what you see is these decades, sometimes centuries long conflicts.
Okay.
That don't
like Vietnam.
Exactly. Like in Vietnam. Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, but I mean, even in Vietnam, we weren't killing all the women and children and livestock.
Hold on a second. I'm gonna end this actually very soon, and we can finish this up later. Well, I'll leave it going. I can go ahead and just leave it going. I have to go and actually do a patrol here really quick. You know what? I'll just leave it up so you guys can talk and bicker at each other.
I'll do it try and keep them in line.
Okay, thanks, Fred. So,
sorry.
So here's the thing. So
is that like the real Otangelo? Did you have to like change your YouTube name again or whatever? Because I love that. We're all just other candidates of hell. Candidates of hell. See, I mean, this kind of goes to the theme of what I'm saying here right now. Like, you know, Christians are all the same. They all fantasize about your torture for eternity at the hands of the deity their God could not defeat, Satan. They all just have wet dreams about it. My fellow candidates of hell.
There's a part of this that's kind of interesting to me, and it's, have you let all the women live? So Moses and Eleazar, the priest, and all the chiefs of the congregation went to meet them outside the camp. And Moses was angry with the officers of the army, the commanders of thousands and the commanders of hundreds, who had come from service in the war. Moses said to them, have you let all the women live? Behold, these, on Balaam's advice, caused the people of Israel to act treacherously against the Lord in the incident of Peor. And so the plague came among the congregation of the Lord. Now, therefore, kill every male among the little ones, and kill every woman that has known man by lying with him. But all the young girls who have not known man by lying with him, keep alive for yourselves. And camp outside outside the camp 7 days. Whoever you have killed, any person, and whoever has touched any slain, purify yourselves and your captives, and so on and so on.
All right, so I am going to go and refill my soda glass, maybe put some water in there instead. I should probably put some water in there instead. I'm being told I need to drink more water, but soda is so yummy, and I've tried to quit it so many times this year, and I've failed utterly. So I'm going to go fill my soda glass, so I'm just going to let this play for a moment. Jay is about to go do his work thing, and me and CJ are going to really, really start arguing.
Right, so they're basically going to war with these people because the Israelites were duped into this incident at Peor. So they got tempted, and they basically fell away from God and were tempted by the women of Peor. And this is retaliation from God to go after these people for what happened.
Right.
Okay, so it's purely retaliatory. Right. This isn't even necessarily about land, because the Israelites have their land. They have their promised land. They're going after these people because of a past slight. This is reciprocity or retaliation, straight up. So they didn't let it. Well, that's exactly what it's saying, though. Cause the people of Israel to act treacherously against the Lord in the incident of Peor, and so the plague came among the congregation of the Lord. So because
what I'm saying though is I agree with you. Like this is certainly retaliation. In fact, I would even go as far as to say that, in the example that I just gave, I was talking about how we have these wars that go on forever because nobody's just willing to fight them. I think World War II is an example of one we were willing to fight. We beat the pulp out of Germany, right, and Japan also. And the war is over and we were done, right? Obviously, it wasn't quite as brutal as what happened in the Mideast, though. So why is there still this added level of brutality? I think the reason is because, just like you just said, this is God's judgment. It's not just a regular war.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. And that's something that, but that's the thing. People have to. So as Christians, people who believe this God to exist, to be real, they need to struggle. I guess they have to not struggle with it, but think about it, and that's fine. But the narrative is very interesting because this is not the first time that they retaliate. It's the same thing with the Amalekites. Only with the Amalekites, they don't leave anyone. Well, they do leave the king, Agag, but unfortunately, and that was Saul's part. And then Samuel ended up hacking Agag to pieces because King Saul was a freaking numpty and didn't kill every single living thing. And all that was because the Amalekites treated them in a certain way, didn't treat them nicely when they were coming out of Israel. But it actually didn't really matter because the Amalekites were kind of on the list of the 7 that were under that quote unquote ban, that were basically supposed to be completely eradicated in order for the Israelites to settle in the Promised Land, because you had that classification, and it's given multiple times. These seven kites, whatever, these kind of ites right here, Moabites, Jebusites, and all around, they all get killed. Nobody is left alive. As for these other nations, though, these outside nations, those ones there's a different row for. There was a different rules of engagement. You offer terms of peace. If they accept terms of peace, everybody becomes forced labor for Israel. If they don't, if they go to war, you kill all the men. The little ones and the women are plunder.
Yeah, and I'll have to look into that, because if I remember it right, like there are instances where if they didn't accept peace and accept slavery, then you could just wipe them all out. But I'll have to go back and look at that. Jay's probably right. I'm probably wrong here. But that's it. Like the different rules of engagement under the God system, we now very easily find in more modern civilized times atrocious. When God had his direct hands, if this thing exists, when he had his direct hands involved in this process, war was brutal. And as brutal as war is now, it's not like it was back then. And we have rules of engagement that we at least promote through the propaganda that we try to follow. Now, patriots release the information and then get charged with treason about what we really do. But that's a different live stream.
Along with everything else. But
and the reason for the... Sorry, I thought you were...
I know. I was just going to add. Okay, with that, go ahead, and I got to take off. I got to get this patrol done. So you guys have fun. Don't chew on each other too much.
Is the mall closing?
Yeah, I gotta check this. I gotta check this end up real quick and make sure nobody's sleeping in there. So
yeah, so that's Jay saying, don't argue, don't chew each other up too much, and that just wasn't the kind of mood I was in. Me and CJ are gonna go at it, and we are about 50 minutes in, so I think we're gonna get through all of it. So yeah, let's get into the real shit.
Well, so the point I guess I would just want to make is just simply to say that there is an added level of brutality certainly in these wars compared to even the Israelites' own other wars, as you point out. There is reason for that, at least in the narrative, right? Which of course I buy, and I imagine I think I'm the only person in this room right now who does. Perfectly fine. All right, obviously I'm not saying anything about that, but the point being, by the narrative, this is a judgment, right? This is a judgment against a particular group of people. In fact, part of the reason why you would consider it to be, or at least I would consider it to be, sparing the girls in that situation, is because actually if you think of the command as far as when it was originally given, it was to obliterate, right? We want them destroyed, and this is a judgment. And it's kind of the same thing, actually, when you think of things like grace in the grand scheme of things, right? People always ask, well, why doesn't God save every individual and yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. There's this idea almost that we have that, like, when a judgment is going on, if you show grace to some, you're required to show grace to others. I don't think that that's accurate at all, frankly. I think that, we see it in our own American legal system. A judge has full discretion to give grace in some certain situations and not give grace in some other situations. Really,
do we elect our judges? Well, and that's a good question because we do elect our judges. But we elect our judges on a state level or district level, and then as further up you get, I believe that the Supreme Court is the only non-elected judges, or the federal level is the only non-elected judges. But I forgot the point that I was going to make, and it was so good, and that really disappoints me. But everything that CJ says is really just, if you listen to it, fundamentalism at its core. He is one of the most, fundamental Christians I've ever talked to. It's just he doesn't come out and say the hateful things. He believes 100% in this Bible. He believes in it. He thinks that it's just. He thinks that this God is perfect. So when dealing with CJ, I have learned you just really can't give him any ground. You've got to hammer home at him what he is. He'll never see it. I don't believe he'll ever see it. But I think it's vitally important. And I really wish I remember the point that I was leading up to. Maybe should stop smoking so much weed through this.
Say again?
Do we elect our judges? I'd be in big trouble if I was eating these edibles, man. Whoa, they knock me out.
Well, I think that depends, honestly. I'm not 100% sure if all the regions in the world. I'm pretty sure that here...
I'm fairly certain the only judges that don't get elected are on the federal level.
That might be true. That honestly might be accurate. I'm not sure. I know.
So, who elected God?
Well, frankly, that's not the same thing at all. When we elect judges, we're electing.
I mean, no. I mean, because you're going on and all this rationalization about like God's judgment and shit. Like, right? So why couldn't God get his plan right and just not have to destroy these people? Not have to put the swords through the babies' heads. Not have to save the women and children just for Moses to order them to be murdered. Why couldn't God enact his plan on this world the way he wanted to from the beginning instead of being a complete inept fucking moron?
Well, I don't think there's any evidence at all that God's plan isn't enacted exactly as he wanted it to.
You think that shit's going well?
That's definitely not what I said. I said that it's going according to plan. Now, when I say that,
so God likes soap operas.
I mean, I don't really know exactly what God's motivations are. I think there are certain things
I don't think you know much of shit, CJ. Honestly.
I mean, like I said, there are certain things I know because the Bible gives me certain glimpses. Like, for example,
the Bible. The utter nonsense that these people believe in, that they can live in this modern world and be raised in this modern world, read this book and be able to justify it to themselves, and think that that's going to hold any kind of fucking sway over somebody like me. I mean, why does anybody put stock in that book? I mean, if I were to walk around and say, but Dune says, and live my life like that, people would think that I'm utterly fucking insane. Now, if you don't know what Dune is, it's a book by, goddamn, why can't I think of his name? I want to say Herbert. I think it's Herbert. Great science fiction book. Maud Dib. Love those books. But if I were to walk around and say, what we did to the Native Americans is okay because Dune says, people would think I'm fucking insane. And yet these people walk around with this 2,000-year-old book that's been changed so many times. And give it any justification for their rationality. Just blows me away. How did I do that? Yeah, who doesn't know Dune? Everybody should know Dune. I think the movie's coming out soon, the new movie, and I've heard that it's supposed to be actually pretty good. We'll see. I haven't liked any of their iterations. Funny Dune story. Like for the first, I'd say 10 years, because I've read the book several times. For the first 10 years that I was reading those books, I thought book 3 was the end of it. I didn't know that Frank Herbert had continued and I think wrote 6 books. I read all of those. I think he wrote a couple, and then his son has continued the story as well. And actually, a couple of those books, I haven't read all of them. The couple that I've read aren't bad. They're not bad. So funny story. Like I thought it ended at the God Emperor book 3, and didn't know it continued on for the longest time. But yeah, like I just don't get it. I just really don't get it, especially for somebody that's going to try to portray themselves as somewhat rational. Now, I think I've said this for a while, and I've told it to John. I'm not sure if I've said it live. I know I've told it to John several times. I think that CJ has realized that drama sells on YouTube. So I think he's trying to escape that, like, hey, I'm the moderate Christian that you can come and talk to persona that he had put out for so long. And if that's what he's doing, it's kind of actually understandable. Now, and Also, I'd like to, Jim Majors is a friend, but from what I've seen of CJ's recent debate with Jim Majors on Moses, I thought CJ did really well in that debate. So, I try to keep a open mind, even if I find you to be extremely fundamental. And CJ's really good at putting forth his arguments and putting forth arguments that are really horrible and making them sound not too bad. As is the conversation that we're having here today, because we're literally talking about a system of warfare that we would not find acceptable here in the modern world. And yet CJ is going to continue to justify that time and time again. It's pretty fucking pathetic.
I know one
the
of
Bible
the
does.
That
how does the Bible tell me how the Bible gives you glimpses?
Well, I mean that's what I'm in the process of doing, for the record. But nonetheless,
glimpses of what? Like ejaculation? What? I'm curious.
What does that even mean? Like, is that supposed to be an insult?
I'm like, do you get off when you read your Bible and you read this ancient text and you think that it's telling you how to live your life in the fucking modern world? Do you get off on that?
No, that would be real weird. I think if you get off when you're reading books like that, you probably.
I mean, I get off when I read like a Sidney Sheldon novel. I ain't gonna lie.
Well, I mean, I did say books like that. To be fair, like holy text,
I mean, some of the Bible scenes are kind of hot. I actually grew up reading a whole lot of Sidney Sheldon. My stepmother was a romance reader, so like when I didn't have anything around to read, because I was always a sci-fi fantasy dude. I really enjoyed those books. As I grew up, I got into more historical books. I love reading histories. I could sit down and read a boring ass history all day. But I was more of the sci-fi fantasy reader. But when I didn't have any new sci-fi around or any new fantasy around, I pick up one of my stepmom's books. And I didn't really like Daniel Steele. That was like way too girly for me. But Sidney Sheldon, I really enjoyed those books. I found them to be highly entertaining. And yeah, they get you hot, especially when you're a teenager.
I'm just saying you might want to, get that checked out. That might be like a little nymphomania or something. Anyways, so I think that the Bible is clear that God is wanting to bring people into relationship with him, willing relationship with him. I think the Bible is also clear that God has created the world for his own glorification. After all, he is God. I think the Bible.
I'm being very blunt in this conversation with CJ. I was there to pick a fight, but honestly, this is. When you're having a conversation about the compassion of God, there is no conversation. There's no argument to be made that the morality of Yahweh is anything that we would consider decent by modern standards. If you had any kind of parenting at all, you can't look at the way that Yahweh told his people to treat others and say, yeah, that's the way we should do it. And yet CJ does come with that argument that, yeah, that's the way we should do it. Praise will sit there and tell you that there was no slavery. That's, it's a fucking illusion. It's almost like, manic the way he goes on about it. But at least he's in denial about the absolute atrocities that this Bible is laying out. CJ isn't in denial about it, and he just accepts it. He just accepts it full-heartedly. That's... you got to treat them as such. And I've been nice to CJ, usually. And I'll continue to be nice to him, and I'll continue to have conversations with him. But I will not beat around the bush with him. Dude, you're Matt Powell. You sit here and you come with me every single time that the Bible says, and the Bible is accurate, and this is how you base your life. And then sit here and try to tell me that this is how we should all base our lives here in the modern world. And if I were to do that, well, if the entire world were to do that, we'd be back in the fucking dark ages.
The Bible is also clear that there are things outside of our knowledge that God has decided not to reveal to us yet as far as why he created things the way that he did. But I do think the Bible is the fourth thing that I would say about the Bible's clarity is that it's also very clear that this is all the way it's supposed to have been. There's no failure on God's part. God is manifesting the different attributes.
No failure on God's part, creation. Seriously? Like, how do you read the Bible and come to that interpretation that there's no failure on God's part?
I just read it, honestly. Like,
So when God killed the entire world, that wasn't a failure. That wasn't like a mulligan.
No.
How do you read it and not interpret that? Like, how do you read it and be like, you know what? God is like perfect here because, you know, like God had it right from the beginning. He had to kill everybody. That was his plan because he's a mass murderer. Like, how do you not see how fucked up that is?
Well, for one, God's plan actually, if you read the entire text, is obviously includes the redemption of all the animals, the redemption of Noah and his family, and even eventually the redemption of all mankind through Noah's line via the Jesus birth.
But that still doesn't take away from the initial failure. Why was there any redemption needed at all? How is this a perfect plan? How can anybody look at that story and not see it for what it is? And I just said it there, a fucking mulligan. And how did God not defeat Satan in the fucking first place? Satan's just another angel. God is God. And yes, God cast Satan down to pester us, his most beloved beings that he's ever created in the history of his universe. But that's perfect. And if that's your impression of perfect, I can fully understand why you're a Trumper. God, I'm laughing again, but it's funny. The redemption of all mankind. Am I redeemed?
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yes, actually.
I'm redeemed. I am redeemed.
If you decide to accept it, yes.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Hold on. Thomas, what were you trying to slide in there?
I was just going to say a couple of minutes ago, CJ, you claimed that you didn't know what God's intentions were, and now you're claiming you know what his plan is. That seemed a little bit odd to me.
Hang on, no, I have not at any point claimed that I know what his plan is. I said the Bible gives me glimpses into his plan, number one, and number two, I said the Bible tells me that it is going according to plan. But I never at any point in time claimed to know or have absolute knowledge of the plan of God. That's not something that. And if I did, I certainly didn't mean it. But I'm 100,000% positive I did not actually say that.
So he floods the earth, and then his next step is to burn it.
If you're talking about his next judgment, he does say yes. The next judgment of the entire world will be by fire. However, that's not his next step, obviously, right? I mean, if you just read the text, obviously, there's a lot of intermediate steps there. I mean, just think of Noah. Right.
Oh, obviously, yeah. Well, that's his next big step.
Well, I mean, even then, though, that's still not the first big step, right? I mean, like, there obviously we're gonna be at Sinai. Obviously, we're gonna have the Jesus birth. Obviously, we're gonna have all the prophets. I mean, like, there's quite a bit of stuff going.
I know. I think it might have been a bit easier on God if he would have just chilled with us, and showed us the perfect world. All right, so I made. Honesty from God would have been good. So if he'd have been chilling us from the very beginning and just didn't take off like the deadbeat daddy was, and told us, I was imperfect in your design, and I made some of you lust after people with the same genitalia that you have, and I find that atrocious, and it should have never happened. But here are the reasons why I think you should, stone them to death or whatever atrocious thing that the Bible demands you to do. And that might have made it easier for, people that are empathetic with human beings to understand that God is here and he is all powerful and he does have a plan and he has reasoning and we should be there casting those stones. And we're evil for having these progressive thoughts that human beings are human beings and, we're all imperfect and we all have our shit. That's bullshit thinking. So it might have been a little easier if God had just been here the entire time to show us the way. But for you to sit here in this modern world and having parents, I imagine, teach you something of compassion, I would hope, and tell me that we should indeed be killing people just because this 2,000-year-old book tells us so, because that's the perfect plan of God, and you can't see the problem with that, I don't think I can help you. And to me, it's just why these religions need to go away. Just gone. Like, what good do they do? That we can sit here and have a conversation about how we should have slavery. But we're the crazy ones, you know. We don't believe in that bullshit. We ask for, you know, little things like evidence. We're crazy.
Going on here. It's not just like from destruction to destruction. You know what I mean? And by the way, that's kind of an important piece here, I think. So, you know, we brought up the retaliatory nature of all these things earlier, right? Actually, Jay did. And, you know, the Amalekites is an interesting one, and it's one that he didn't particularly focus on it, but I'm going to focus on it for a minute just to make a point, because a lot of atheists often do, because they often make the point like, this is something that happened 400 years ago. Why does God care? Right? And frankly, that's kind of a good question. Why does God care? And the thing is, you're not reading the text very carefully, right? First off, number one, we know that the Amalekites were currently, up until that point, 400 years in the future, still doing the same things, still warmongering, going out, attacking, raiding, all that other sorts of things. Right?
Israel wasn't?
How do we know this? Because
Israel wasn't doing those things?
No, Israel was not doing those things. Israel.
Have you read the Bible?
Israel, every single time. Israel was
like, have you read the fucking Bible, CJ?
Every single time that Israel was going to war, at least when it was justified, at least, because obviously Israel does have things that are unjustified that God condemns them for. But assuming justification, right? It is either in judgment of another nation, which comes directly from God himself, or retaliatory, meaning they have been attacked. Every single situation, there's not an exception.
So because the Israelites get to say, you know, God told us, then their warmongering isn't the same as the others, because, you know, those others, they had those heathen gods telling them to do the same shit, right?
God willed it.
Well, obviously, I see a difference there, and I'm not expecting.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure you do.
You don't believe in
you're supporting your side. Of course, you're going to think it's a good thing. It's just like us Americans thinking us going to war is a good thing, but the poor people in the Middle East are like, why do these white people keep on attacking us?
I mean, obviously, I don't actually, as I've already stated earlier, I don't actually think that those wars are justified. Notice I was saying that there was an illegal war earlier in Vietnam.
Funny, like, he's like so anti-war until you start talking about ancient Israel, and then you know how genocide is totally cool. Like, I'm sorry, CJ, I don't bite on the whole anti-war thing. I don't think that you're, you know, on my same level when it comes to the anti-war thing. I'm just gonna put that out there.
And then when we wanted to replace it, I said, let's replace it with the Iraq war, right? So just for the record, let's keep up. Right?
Well, the Iraq war wasn't...
I mean, the Iraq war was the illegal war.
Right. I literally just said that I thought both the Vietnam and the Iraq war were... I mean, honestly, do you, like, intentionally not listen? Like...
I think you intentionally go all over the fucking place.
Pretty much almost all the wars except for like World War.
And he does, like, once again, I'm sure I'm going to call it out. Like, once again, we're talking about modern fucking warfare. Like, even our most horrible wars in modern day, outside of World War II, I mean, dropping those 2 bombs was pretty fucked up. We don't do any of that type of shit. Like, if we did and it gets caught, it's going to be a national sensation, right? Like, and you know, the generals will never get blamed. You know, they'll never have to face the repercussions. If you remember Abu Ghraib, it's usually the privates. It's usually the, you know, the troops in the gutter that's going to actually pay any penalties for the orders coming from the White House. But we just, you know, we're not going to go into Iraq and just wipe them all out, kill them all. Man, woman, child, old people, kill all the goats, all the cattle, all the dogs, all the cats. Shit, if they have a fucking fish tank, kill them too, because that's what the Bible said. We don't do that. There's no comparison, CJ. Why do you keep running to modern times when we're talking about times when your God actually had his hands involved in the shit? Play it.
World War I and World War II were the only two wars that we are really supposed to be a part of.
And yeah, like you literally said, like World War II is the example of American greatness when we waited our fucking asses off to get into that war. We tried not to get into that war for everything we were fucking worth. Where in Vietnam, we were like all in, killing everybody, raping everybody. I'm surprised like you don't see God's hand in that.
Well, first off, I said that it was an example of a justified war. Second off, yes, it was an example of a justified war. And third off, yeah, that's you don't just go out and attack people because you don't like their foreign policy. The United States waited until it was attacked, like you're supposed to do, right? And then once it was attacked, it retaliated.
Maybe with anybody but fascists killing Jews by the millions. Maybe
no fascists were killing Jews by the millions. Nobody knew that nobody outside of Europe had any idea what. And frankly,
dude, even back then, you sell our intelligence apparatus short. Even back then, we knew exactly what was fucking going on. Teddy Roosevelt was a fucking coward, and he played. Yeah, I think I got that wrong. I think it was who was it? Shit, I think they're gonna correct me. But I got that wrong. Teddy Roosevelt was way before that. Laid his cards to the table. Do not deny history. This is well documented.
That is conspiracy theory and lies.
I think it was FDR. Wasn't it FDR? I can't remember. But no, like we waited in that war. Fucking, all you have to do is study World War II. Watch how Britain got pounded. Watch how Russia got pounded. And we're just sitting back. It took the Japanese attacking us for the president, whoever the fuck it was, to have any justification at all to go to war or any inclination at all to go to war. They try to stay out of it. I mean, if you look at American politics at the time, the American Nazi Party they had some power at the time. Adolf Hitler was not some hated person here in America. And we did not at first go to war with Germany. Although it has been a while since I brushed up on my World War II history. Luckily, I've had people, Dr. Misha to correct me when I'm wrong. People like that. But, I mean, it's like no conspiracy theory to make a statement that America sat on its ass as Europe got pounded by Nazi Germany. That's history. That's fucking history. I mean, no conspiracy theories there.
Nobody was aware of what was going on. In fact, first off, when the war started in 1939, nothing was going on. The Holocaust did not start until 1941. So that's just the first historical fact that you have wrong, right? That's the first thing. Secondly, we did not discover that the Holocaust was happening in the United States until our soldiers literally marched into the camps. That is a...
I don't really believe that. I think we knew what was going on. I think that it was fairly easy to see when you consider the train system that were transporting Jews all across Europe. I think that is a justification for us sitting on our hands as they committed these atrocities. And I mean, I'm sorry, CJ, but I think you're the one spitting conspiracy theory here.
Noted historical fact. It is something that has been well documented. In fact, it's something that has even been dramatized in tons of different television shows and movies at this point. This is not something that
maybe you should stop watching television shows and movies and start reading some books.
Who's even a student of World War II disputes. There is evidence that perhaps
I see all that shit you just said. I never said any of that. What I said was Teddy Roosevelt sat on his fucking hand. Yeah, Teddy Roosevelt. I'm totally off on that. Probably FDR with a finger up his ass. FDR, whoever, as he watched the atrocities that the fascists were committing, and he was scared to get into a war, tried to get into a war with Japan, waited for Japan to start a war, and I mean, we had Churchill begging this motherfucker to come and aid him. Japan was defeated when we dropped that second bomb. Let that sink in. They were done. And we dropped that second bomb anyway. Want to talk about a justified war? Think of all the people that died just from that second bomb. Think about it, CJ. He did nothing for years. Don't deny history, CJ.
Once again, that is hilariously false. FDR was actually trying to get the United States into the conflict. It was the Congress, because it was isolationist and did not want to get involved in another European war.
Now, I really don't know where he gets that from, because like everything I've studied about this, FDR sat on this as long as he could. And I mean, I maybe I am just completely wrong here, but I don't even see where he gets that from. Because I mean, that's just like. Fucking Churchill was begging us to enter that war. Begging us. Britain was getting pounded. I don't understand where he even thinks that's... I don't know. Maybe I'm just completely off.
That wanted us to stay out.
Oh, fucking bullshit.
FDR, that is literally a matter of established
like
fact.
Seriously, stop. Like just stop. I mean, we literally had Americans by the tons joining the British fucking military to fight Mussolini and Hitler because we wouldn't fucking do it. What is CJ even talking about?
Why?
Fucking
Because
stop.
I'm literally spanking you like I am taking a paddleboard and just...
Oh yeah, I am welted all red right now. I'm welted all red. This literally started because you made a claim that your God is compassionate, and I called you out on your fucking bullshit, and you're trying to take it out to all these American wars and shit.
Definitely did not. You threw out a red herring that had nothing to do with this.
No, you've been throwing out the red herrings. You've taken it to American fucking wars. You've taken it to modern fucking wars to escape the conversation about your God's atrocity, CJ.
That is not what happened. Literally anybody...
That is exactly what has happened.
They can see that what you're doing right now is telling lies.
Oh, no, I'm telling lies. So your God did not order the Israelites to put the swords through the heads of little babies, and you are trying to escape that fucking question by talking about fucking Vietnam. Seriously.
No, my point, literally everybody got my point except for you. In fact, Doubting Thomas even literally repeated
Roar. People say I'm not the raging atheist anymore.
my point.
Everybody's more than willing to let the Christians get away with their bullshit and be more than fair little fucking pussy-ass atheists. I am not that pussy-ass atheist, CJ.
No, you're inept. That's what's going on.
Oh, I'm inept. This is usually this is the main reason I don't do these like really late conversational rooms anymore, because I'll get pissed off and everybody's sleeping and I can't get away with yelling in my microphone. It's like 11:30ish. I'm not sure like how long before I jet out of here. I jet out right at midnight. Shouldn't be yelling in my microphone at 11:30 at night. And got a kid sleeping in the other room. She's a heavy sleeper like a daddy, but that, still shouldn't be doing it. I love it when they go there. So tell me how I'm inept. Tell me, or like I'm a heavy sleeper until recently. I've been struggling with insomnia. It's like the weirdest thing. I've never had issues sleeping, and I wake up earlier every day, and it doesn't matter what time I go to bed. It's really odd. I don't get it, and it's fucked. Tell me how I'm the one that got us away from what your Bible says and started talking about American modern wars. Tell me how I did that.
I actually, literally, you are the one who actually started bringing up FDR and him sitting on his hands.
No, I was not.
Yes,
I was responding to you. And I was, like, we just watched it. I was responding to him because he kept going on about this shit. He keeps taking it throughout the entire conversation to these modern wars when we're literally having a conversation about the morality and the decision-making of your God. The God that you profess such faith in. You should be able to defend him without going to Iraq and what we did there. And just for your information, CJ, I was a leftist at the time in direct opposition to that war. It is the war that made me a Democrat. It is the war that drove me from being a Republican. Completely done with that shit after that war. See, I lived through that war. I didn't go there. But anybody alive during that war, we saw it live on TV. And they've changed that shit since. I think they saw the error of their ways because shit didn't go so well. And they changed it during the war. But we watched, Operation Shock and Awe live on TV. I was at work that night watching it on my television screen as we dropped those bombs on the citizens that didn't leave because, the army left. But a lot of citizens didn't leave their homes, and we dropped those bombs that night. Yeah. Yay, America.
Oh my goodness, you are so honest. It's not even funny, dude.
Actually, I think that was my fault. My bad. I think I was the one that brought that up. My bad.
Actually, the only thing I agreed with you, CJ, was Vietnam was a policed action. That's it.
Right, and then no, hang on. That's not true. That's not true.
No, he didn't even say that. He said it was an illegal war. We had to tell him it was an illegal police action. Stop giving these Christians too much fucking credit.
Rattling that ass all night, you scared that my voice might actually hurt your little feelings, bro?
No, your voice is kind of pussy. You kind of sound like a bitch.
It's pretty strange that you're the only person I talk to who can't manage to keep his freaking cool.
Oh, I'm just not giving fucks anymore. You're mad. You're mad. It's one thing. Like, it's the one thing I really bit my tongue when it comes to John. When it came to John, and anybody for that matter. I'm trying to repair the damage that I did with my family for not taking the approach that everybody else seems to take with their families, and it's not working all that great because I did so much damage. But our family members aren't any different either. Fundamentally, if you were to challenge them and put their backs against that wall to defend their faith, they would defend it. And they would tell you the same thing. But the Bible says. And that is the dumbest goddamn thing I've ever fucking heard in my life. The dumbest fucking thing anybody could ever say. As I pointed out. If I were to go walking around saying, but Harry Potter says, well, I think Christians would be locking me up, throwing away the key, putting a straitjacket on me. Do they not see it? No, they do not.
When I have a conversation, you and Leah Phileas, John Peterson, your little crew.
Because everybody thinks you're some calm, cool, moderate little fucking Christian. You're as atrocious as any of them, CJ.
You guys and your dishonest crew. And I find that to be kind of strange. Is it because you're scared? I think it's because you're scared.
Is he the only one, or is there three of them?
Well, I said him and his crew. To be fair, I said that
I'm like the only one now. So yeah, like me and my crew. Who is me and my crew? I am me. Like, I can't tell you how many times John Peterson has tried to reel me back, and when Allie was here, she tried to reel me back. I am just fucking me, yo. I'm not the atheist that's going to let you just spit your bullshit. I'm just not, especially if I'm in a mood. Talk to me about real shit. Tell me why you think this slavery is so justified. Tell me why I should sell my daughter at 20, if she hadn't been married yet, into sexual slavery, CJ. Tell me how that is better than the system that we have today, to where she can go out and find a job and live for her own and live her own goddamn life. I'm waiting.
First you said he was the only one, and then you added Leo Phileas.
Something afterwards to correct it, dude. Like, come on.
I mean, dude, like, why should I be fucking nice to you, CJ? Like you literally think I should be a fucking slave.
No, I literally think you're literally somewhat capable. Like, a little bit. End of the point.
And I think this is why, like, I've been talking about, and yeah, Brainbug tried to reel me in quite a few times as well. Brainbug has always been a really good influence on your boy. But, you know, I think this is why, like, I've been avoiding these rooms anymore, because I just don't have the tolerance anymore. I really don't. I don't have the patience for it. You know, like I don't be fake. Just don't. Don't sit there and tell me how you're anti-war and then justify what the fucking Israelites did to the Canaanites. Don't justify what they did to those faraway kingdoms when they gave them a choice of slavery or death. Excuse me. Soda. Because if you justify that to me, well, that just takes me to my own people suffering at the hands of Christians, evangelicals, the American government. You know, we live in a time where people justify the worst. I can't tell you how many times during the No Dapple struggle, when I try to talk to people about what was going on in Standing Rock, long before I ever actually went and spent a few days there myself, just how many people were like, so? Or then I'd overhear people talking about it once the national news hit, once, like, you know, Morton County Sheriff's Office just really started brutalizing the Native Americans, and it went national, and I'd hear people just talking about it, because I work with public, and just to hear them just, like, still after all this time use probably racist language that they were using when they were slaughtering Native Americans. It's disturbing. We live in a world that's not so modern. Once you get to the dark underbelly of it, see people for what they really are, because people try to portray themselves as good human beings. And as a humanist, we should see all people as human beings, because ultimately we are human beings, and human beings have the capability of being fucking atrocious. And we shouldn't run away from that. You know, we pretend to think honesty is something that we value until you're honest. And then we don't value it so much. I'm so dumb.
Well, frankly, I didn't even say that. I said capable, but you can interpret it however you
I'm so inept.
That's true.
Capable of what, CJ?
Maintaining conversation.
Can we talk about God ordering the swords through the babies' heads now?
He's obviously philosophically inept, which is why he's so pitiful at having conversations, throwing out red herrings and things like that. And all these other kinds of
I threw out the red herrings. I try to talk about your Bible, and you went to modern American wars.
And made a perfectly
like you always do. I'm surprised we didn't go to Star Wars.
Israel was nothing like.
So yeah, I mean, if you can't tell, I got CJ mad. I told you guys I started a fight. CJ probably don't want to talk to the Raging Atheist no more. I don't really blame him. I really don't, because fuck them all, honestly. Why am I going to sit here and placate to you anymore? I mean, I did that for 3 years. Why am I going to sit here and have a conversation with you about the Grand Canyon and try to tell you what everybody accepts as history, but you will refuse to accept it as history because your Bible says that this earth is 6,000 years old? Why continue that fucking conversation and just not point at them and laugh? Because that's what they do to us. As I pointed out several times in the stream, we are the ones not accepted by society still to this day. We don't have representation in Congress. We've never had representation in the highest offices, the Supreme Court, the presidency. The godless position has never been taken seriously. A lot of people still honestly think that we eat the brains of babies. This is a trope that we put out because it's real. I have been accused of it myself a few times. People still think that shit. I mean, and it really shouldn't surprise you. Because they believe that this 2,000-year-old book has any credence at all in the world we live in today. And we wonder why we can't get any gun legislation passed. We wonder why, just supporting Black Lives Matter is all of a sudden a conversation. When it shouldn't be.
Like the United States, so.
Never said Israel was anything like the United States, but that's okay.
Then why use the United States to justify what the Israels were doing?
I didn't use the United States to actually justify the United States doing what I did. And it's ridiculous that we're having to go back on this because, again, I know that you want to deny it now, Doubting Thomas.
I'm sorry. I've been bouncing through a couple different channels.
I got CJ so mad, y'all. And it's because, I granted CJ rope, like several conversations. Go back and watch them. I granted him rope. I mean, you can only tell me the Bible says so much. I'm gonna see some cupcake there. CJ might not go around telling you how we should kill gay people. But CJ, do you think we should? Because that's what the Bible says. You can only tell me that so much. You can only try to run from it so much. I'm not talking about modern warfare. If I wanted to have a conversation with you about modern warfare, I would have had a fucking conversation with you about modern warfare. And that would have been the topic. And that's what we would have talked about. And I could have seen how truly anti-war you are. But we were having a conversation about the genocide of the Canaanites, directed by your God, whom you profess to have faith in. Defend that, because you haven't yet. You haven't. That's Red Fang. That's not Doubting Thomas.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Tell me what I think, CJ.
No, I'll tell you exactly, because you vocalized it. You vocalized your agreement. You may want to say that it didn't happen, but it happened. I'm sorry. I made the point that when you go into wars without wanting to actually fight the wars, go into pussyfoot around, you end up having these long, decades-long conflicts that are terrible, and they end up being just a whole mess for all groups involved, right? You then, after I said that, said, like Vietnam, which was the point I was just making, right? And I said, yes, exactly, like Vietnam. That was my point. That was something that happened in this particular stream. And
we're to the nuh-uh part of the stream, ladies and gentlemen. We're nearly done. And I do see Danny is there. I have Danny on Discord. Yeah, like I said, guys, I've disconnected from everything. I've even went on my Discord and been like, I'm going to be here more, and I'm not there. I have just disconnected. I'm trying to reel myself back in here. So maybe me and Danny will have a conversation. I haven't seen any of the recent shit, so I've been disconnected. But I really have this, this new thing on life here going. And while I'm trying to repair some of the damage I've done with my family through our religious discourse over the past 5 years, I've quickly realized I could never repair the damage that was done from the political discourse over the last 20 years, and that's including some of the moderate leftists in my family. I'm like the only socialist as well. Oftentimes, politics directly correlates with religious, unfortunately, here in America. So, I mean, yeah, I did see something there in the chat. Like, Danny, you do not want to have a political conversation with myself. You want to try to keep it a philosophy, because that'll be where you have an edge on me. And I probably won't give you any leeway, because fuck philosophy. I don't care about your philosophy. I want to know your truth. That's what I'm interested in. And CJ's truth is straight up atrocious. I showed it in that debate. And I got mad. Like, it was the first like real debate I was in to where I took my headphones off and I fucking threw them and I walked away from my microphone and from the computer because I could not consciously sit there and listen to what the fuck he was saying any longer. It's never happened with Matt Powell. In fact, often when me and Matt talks, I'm riveted. Truthfully. You know, the thing with me and Matt is you have two fairly charismatic people and their charisma just is a chaotic mess when we're together. It's really interesting. It would be like a case study for any fucking psychologist to watch an interaction, a live in-person interaction between me and Matt Powell. Very interesting. I think psychologists would have a field day with that. I'm telling you, the last conversation I had with the dude, I could tell, like, I impacted his entire family, and all the little acolytes he had there as well. They didn't know what the fuck to do with me. CJ, you're 19. I think you might even be 20 now. You're a young dude, man. You got so far to go. If you're going to begin your life justifying the atrocities that your Bible says, your life, I hope, will be a very hard one moving forward in the future, because I do not think we should lessen or lighten up in any way. In fact, I think we, the no's of this country, need to be louder and more demanding. We need to be those patriots that demanded representation in England. That's what we should be right now. And that's why I say, when I started this stream talking about, you know, the atheists converting to the Islam thing, I'm not going to keep bringing that up because I really don't care. We have to understand who our enemy is. And we have to stop playing like this is some fucking social justice war when it's an actual war. It's an actual fight. We're like at the brink now. This generation may be the next. These things are going to be determined. It's time to really start fighting. Stop being so goddamn peaceful and respectful and not playing by the same rules or fighting the same war. Can't let up just because we think we're winning it. Go read some Sun Tzu.
To your question, Red Fang, the reason I was bringing that up was to make the point as to why the Israelites
I got that name right.
Pussyfooting around with war. I then added that there is an added level of brutality when it comes to the Midianites and Canaanites because it is a judgment, not just a war. All of that has been quoted by me verbatim now multiple times. And I'm sorry if I'm sounding irritated, but like it is literally pathetic that nobody has gotten what my point is at this point.
So if we issue judgment against Syria, can we go in there and put the swords through the babies' heads?
God issued the judgment.
So if God issued a judgment against Syria, can the United States of America today go and put the swords through the babies' heads in Syria?
If God decided that he was going to have Syria judged, then God decided he was going to have Syria judged, and that is a just.
And you'd be good with that. You'd be good with that. Just putting the swords through the baby's head in Syria because God said it was cool.
Obviously, I'm not going to like it, but I'm not going to like it.
It would be a bullet, not a sword.
Is that a red herring?
Hold on. Then why do you bring the Vietnam War into it at all? Why?
What does that mean? Why is that relevant? I don't understand what the question is getting at.
You just said when Knock tried to make a counterpoint, you said, no, the Vietnam War, the United States, it doesn't matter because God did it. God did it. God did it.
Come on, Thomas, please, dude.
That's what you said 3 times, I think. God did it.
Ignoring my point, and I have to believe.
So now it's doubting Thomas that's ignoring your points. So it seems to me that anybody that has any kind of disagreement with the fucked up shit you say, CJ, is just ignoring your points. Maybe your points are just fucked. Maybe.
that this is you being dishonest, because it's not possible that you're this stupid. It's
If
literally
you have
not.
if you have to believe it, that's okay.
Don't be a Smokey and go with the whole stupid shit. Come on now.
I'm going to repeat this for probably the 12th time.
You don't even understand. You don't, CJ. You don't even understand what I'm trying to say to you right now.
No,
you're so fucking. You're so fucking pissed
why
off.
you're coming out with this bogus nonsense? Okay, it has nothing to do with who decided that this is a judgment.
Then why did you just say because God decided? That's why it's all justified because God decided it.
Questions. You're asking me two different questions. I asked you. There's one point, which is. The point about wars going on and pussyfooting around, that's where the Vietnam example comes in. Then you say, okay, so if the United States did X, no.
Like, I really am surprised we didn't get to Star Wars. Usually CJ will go to Star Wars, because that has any relevance at all to anything.
Vietnam example was only to show why wars that go on for long times due to pussyfooting around are problematic. It was not to show that the United States...
Right, so listen to me. Shut your fucking hole.
All right, gonna go refill my glass. I will be right back. I'm gonna put everything on mute so I can hear.
Listen to me for a second. Okay.
Hold on.
All right.
CJ.
Go on. Let him go. Let him rant. Let him fucking rant.
CJ, hold on. Just calm down. Take a couple deep breaths, man, because you're getting way too heated for this. Okay.
Well, that's what happens when you're surrounded by liars. I'm sorry.
You're the only one I know that gets like this on YouTube, CJ.
I'm sure that's true. Just like everything else tonight.
Oh my God! Calm down, CJ. Okay. Now, Thomas, ask your question, and CJ, try and calmly answer whatever question he's going to give you without just spelling out names at him. Okay.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, God damn it, Thomas.
I know. Right. I'll have to write it down once I figure it out.
Goddamn potheads.
All right, so here's my thing. I've intentionally triggered CJ here tonight, and I'm sorry, CJ, but you kind of deserve it. I will not give no grounds to Christians anymore. Your bullshit about your compassionate God, your bullshit about your judgments, and that makes it okay. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And if your God was omni, if your God was perfect, if your God had this perfect plan for this fucking world, we wouldn't be living in the shitstorm we live in today. We wouldn't be dealing with climate change. We wouldn't be dealing with the fucking Trumpers of the world like you. I mean, God sucks if he exists. And fuck God. And I give no grounds to Christians anymore. Fuck Christians. I care less.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's I'm pretty much there. I really don't care. I don't care your justifications for your hatreds anymore. I really don't. I don't give two fucks about them. Use your 2,000-year-old book to justify your hatreds and your illusions and your delusions about this reality you live in all you want. Come at me with them, I'm not going to care about it. I'm just going to call it out. And CJ is no different. None of them are. I really, you can't be a Christian and have read that Bible and not know any of this. Not have made that determination. Now, a lot of Christians don't actually read their fucking Bible. They're just grown up into it, but then they defend it the same. There's no argument here about whether or not Israel was wrong for their treatment of Canaan. The only argument is that, well, God had some kind of problem with Canaan. A lot of them will go to like this plague that the Canaanite women put on the Jewish people, because, the Jewish men were fucking all the Canaanite women and we're getting STDs. And that was those women's fault, not the Jewish men that were fucking them. So God had to do something. So, just wipe them all out. Just wipe them all out. So? So, does that justify it? And then they'll be, sodomy, bunch of gay people over in Canaan. They were all gay. So? Even if that's not true, but even if it were, so? Does that justify it? No, it doesn't. It doesn't, CJ. I'm sorry. And to sit there and justify it, and for me not to just call you what you are and tell you what you are and treat you as you are is not very honest. It just isn't. Because I don't care how long they've been dead. They should have had longer lives. And I don't give a fuck what your God said or what your Bible says.
Okay, I got a question for you, CJ. Would it have been better, in your opinion, if we would have just slaughtered the Vietnamese like we could have and ended the war in a fucking 2 years or whatever? That would have been cool?
Well, to be fair, again, I would point out that I think the Vietnam War is illegal. But if we just disregard that for a second, the war itself.
No, man, don't go off on a fucking brother. Jesus,
hold on,
Dude,
Thomas. Let him answer it.
If you ignore that for a second, the fact that the war would have been more beneficial for all parties involved had it been ended quickly and had the nations that were involved, specifically the United States, actually went in there to defeat and destroy the Viet Cong. Had that been the case, it would have been a 2, maybe 5 year war. They'd be out, and then
we went in there to completely wipe them out. We did not understand our enemy. We went in there and I don't think that CJ understands the Vietnam War too well. The numbers of troops that we sent there, the number of troops that we lost, the enemy that we didn't understand, the terrain that we didn't understand, the tactics that we didn't understand, the overconfidence that we had. Vietnam War is it's much more than an quote-unquote illegal war, which CJ seems to want to harp on so much. Like, I don't get that. Why? I don't give a fuck about the Vietnam War. The war I worry about are the wars that we are carrying out now. And we pretend like we're not at war anymore. When we're always at war. War never ends for the United States. We're always killing people. One of the things we do best. It's one of the things we do best. But that's a different conversation. That's not a conversation that we were having that night. We were supposed to be having a conversation about the morality of the God that you follow and profess faith in and want to defend. Not a U.S. government that I have no faith in and I never wanted to defend. Why should I? Give me something to defend, I might. We committed atrocity after atrocity after atrocity because we did not understand our enemy. We thought we could fight a war with our new technology at the moment, and we came across an enemy that was like, you kill us, we will keep coming. That's what happened in Vietnam.
Well, because the Vietnam used jungle tactics.
Well, and to be fair, the military's hands were tied. The U.S. military's hands were tied by Congress.
Yeah, that's also true.
That is true.
If they would have let the fucking generals wage war like they knew how to fucking wage war, it would have been a different fucking story.
Well, and it was a period of time. It was a clusterfuck in history. You know, you had JFK with the original escalation in Vietnam. JFK got murdered. Lyndon Johnson came in. Richard Nixon came in. He was going to end the war. He didn't do it quite quick enough. I mean, it was a clusterfuck in history with American politics all fucking butt fucking itself, pretty much. And we are still paying the price for it to this very day.
So we should have taken.
And I 100% agree with what I just said there, because I think we are still paying the price for today. I think that we learned nothing from Watergate. In fact, the only thing that it seems that the right learned from Watergate is never concede anything. And you see that play out now. Like, I can't tell you how fucking frustrated I am right now that we lost Al Franklin, however the fuck you said his last name. You guys know what I'm talking about. We lost a good progressive voice, because of some bad jokes and some bad pictures. Nothing Trump level or Matt Gaetz level. And we sit here and we see Matt Gaetz just like doing that Trump thing. And that's where we are right now. You think about our history through the 1900s. There's nothing pretty there. There's nothing to look back on, in my opinion, and be like, yeah, that was great. That was awesome. I mean, you had your individual wars, civil rights, right? Like civil rights movement was important, and we're still fighting that today. And now it's almost worse than ever because the other side wants to go back to that. But you look at the early 1900s, and you're really talking about the end of the Native American Wars, the American Indian Wars. You're talking about the Great Depression, World War I, World War II, leading into a Vietnam that we shouldn't have been in, trying to fight the communists. The Great Red Scare. The nuclear scare. Like anybody that grew up in my generation, you understand the nuclear scare that you grew up in. Afraid at any moment of a nuclear bomb from the Russians. I remember that. I remember watching movies like Spies for Us and really, really shitty movies now that you watch them back, but back then, like, it represented the fear. And America was going to take care of everything. We were the good guys, they were the bad guys, blah, 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 blah. When I talk about a clusterfuck of American politics through the entire 1900s, I'm not lying. It's easy for me to get there, I think, because, I accepted the Native American history, so I accepted a long time ago that our government wasn't anything to glorify. Neither our political system. When I became a disinfected, right-wing, leaning, racist, homophobic bastard that I was in my teens, and started actually growing some fucking empathy and living a life that was surrounded by diversity, I think it's easy for me to see these things. Not so easy for the younger generations. But there's good news on the horizon. I mean, church attendance is down more than it's ever been down in this country. And your younger Christians, most of them aren't your MMA Jenkins. They're more your, I'm going to go out and party and come up with some excuse not to go on church on Sunday type of Christians. At least from what I see. We're at a precipice. And we're going to have to safeguard it, because a world without religion, if we ever get to that, and I won't never live to see that day, but a world without religion doesn't mean some perfect world. I mean, we're going to have to safeguard. Politics is honestly more important than this conversation can ever be. Because politics is going to determine how we as a people move forward. Which side wins there is going to determine a lot. And right now, both of the sides in politics that we have working for the American people are only really representing the oligarchy. That's a problem. But that's a different stream. I think we're almost done here. I think this is about the end.
A page from the Bible. We should have taken a lesson from God and went in there and just fucking sliced the babies open of the Vietnamese. That's what we should have done.
Yeah, I mean, put the swords through the heads.
The added level of brutality is
through the heads.
The fact that this is literally directly ordered by God as judgment. But if we take the removing the judgment aspect of it, yes, absolutely, being more brutal in war makes wars end quicker. We have direct evidence for that in the form of World
and
War
when
II.
you say those things, when you say the judgment of God, when you say the judgment of God is going to make it more brutal, and that's your justification for that, right? And it makes it so easy for me to come in and just say it again, right? Like so right now, you know, our weapons of war over the last 6.5, 7 years have caused thousands upon thousands of children in Yemen to be sacrificed, right? So God comes along and says, you know what? We're not doing the job fast enough. I judge Yemen because they're a bunch of fucking Muslims and they're poor, whatever. I judge them. So go and put the swords through the heads. And you are sitting here saying that if God were to do that this very day in this modern age, that you as a Christian, you might not like it, but you'd accept it.
Yeah, God has literally every
and
right
you don't see how fucking atrocious that is.
Every right whatsoever to judge his.
He said, yeah. He's and honestly, I mean, a lot of people are like that. I've had a lot of conversations with people about the children in Yemen, and not many people care. Leftists care. Some leftists, not all. You know, it's not here. It's not us. You know, I made quite a few videos. I made quite a few videos actually showing the starvation going on with the children in Yemen. Quite a few. You can go back and find them on my on my video log. Might have to go back a while. I've got a lot of videos. Edited videos. Videos I put time in. Just to show you the starvation. I mean, it's something that I care about. I don't care how far away they are. I don't want any children starving to death. I don't care if they're Muslim. I don't care if they're Christian. I don't care if they're whatever. I don't want children starving to death. It's just something I don't want. I think it's something that should be fairly easy to do, considering that we have more than enough for everybody in the world to never starve to death. But we have these things called borders. These things that separate us and divide us from being human beings. And yet I'm the asshole. I'm the asshole for pointing out some of those things. Some of those things that divide us as human beings. I'm the asshole for pointing those things out. For calling them out. For raging on them. No, I don't think I'm the asshole for that. I care about the children of Yemen. I cared about the children of Aleppo, if I could say it right. Because I fought for that cause when that was going on. I want Syrian refugees to be able to get in here. And I don't care if they bring a fundamentalist version of Islam with them. I really don't care. I want them to have the same opportunities. And hopefully, if they get here to more secular society, that would rub off on them. But it's going to be hard if we have a bunch of fundamentalists always in charge. Or an oligarchy willing to allow it. If we're willing to allow them. I don't think I'll ever live to see the day where here in this country, people will understand where the real power lies, and that's with the people. And that's what socialism is all about. It's a people movement. And that's why ultimately I have made that leap. Although I still don't pretend to understand much about it. I just know it's a people politic. It's for the people. And the people need to understand their power. You know, I haven't forced God on my daughter, but I really hope my politics have rubbed off on her. I'll tell you that. And I think they have, because she loves everybody. And that's ultimately the cure for everything. I don't have these conversations with CJ Cox because I hate CJ Cox. I have these conversations with CJ Cox because hopefully one day he won't be a dick. And he'll see just how much of a dick he's being when he justifies these things. And I'll be an asshole to show it to him. Gladly. Every time.
creation. You can say it's atrocious, but frankly, like that's the way that it is, right? Like if God is going to be a just God, then He has the right to put His
So if God says you got it wrong and the Muslims have it right, and you need to have the sword through your head, CJ, will you see it the same way?
Yeah, actually.
You're fucking insane.
You're
Bullshit.
Insane. Not only would I see it the same way, but if the Islamic God was true, I would follow him. Like if he was the actual God, I would follow him. But
they're the same fucking God. Like, oh my, it's so hard to imagine. I get what he's saying, right? Like, so like different interpretations, maybe. You know, Muhammad being a prophet after the whole Jesus thing is an issue, but it's still the same fucking God.
He's not.
Well, neither is yours. Crazy. But hold on. But CJ, the people that attacked Israel, they believed in their own gods too, and their gods told them to attack Israel. So how are they the evil ones for attacking Israel? Just because your God says so? Because on their side, they think they're doing right.
Well, and I know you're not. Probably not
I really hate to cut and run, y'all. It's midnight. That is my cutoff time. I just came to kind of hang out. Sorry to trigger you, CJ. You guys have a good night. I'm gonna be lurking about and joining these rooms when I see them going down. So y'all, I'll see y'all later. Bye. And that's it. I mean, that's me dipping out because it was midnight. It was my cutoff time, and I probably should have not really done it because medication and all. And I smoke really good weed. Now, weed is going to be something that I'm going to have to probably give up as well, though. And that sucks. My last doctor's appointment, they're trying to push the weed thing on me now. And god damn it, I like my weed. But I want to live too. We only have one life. I only have this life, and I have a lot more that I want to do in this life. So is that worth the weed? I guess we shall see. I mean, I've pretty much given up the cigarettes, and now I just filled my my prescription. Let me get it over here of Wellbutrin. So I'm going to be taking that with the gum, and I'm fully because my date is like 2 weeks away now that I'm going to quit 100%, no cigarettes ever again, and I've cut down like 98%. And with this Wellbutrin, like people have told me they just quit with that alone. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about the cigarette thing. I don't know about the weed thing though. That's gonna be a hard one. I have people reaching out about certain vape pens and this and that, and I don't know. I'm thinking heavily on it. Ultimately, when this process started, I told myself I was going to listen to my doctors because the most important thing is being here for as long as I possibly can for my daughter. And my doctors are pushing quitting the weed thing right now. So I think I'm going to quit the weed thing, guys. I really do. And I don't think that's going to be the hardest thing I've quit recently. So I'm actually not too worried about it, though I do enjoy rambling high as hell as I have done this entire stream now for over 2 hours. It has been fun. Not much more to say. Like this, I'm not this isn't the new approach that I'm thinking about taking when I talk to Christians, but I think it is an approach that is vitally necessary sometimes, especially when you have a Christian that wants to keep dodging and then accuse you of being the dishonest one. I think that we have to stop being the persecuted ones. And ultimately, this, I talk a lot about persecution complexes amongst Christians, but I sometimes think that atheists must have it as well because we go out of our way to give room, to grant premises, and I think that has to stop. They have no issues telling us how we're not trusted in society when we haven't done shit to society. They have, and continue to do so. We don't have no lobby in Congress dictating to senators how to vote. They do. Time to stop pretending we're playing on even fucking grounds and start fighting a fight But I probably shouldn't be such an asshole as I do it. I'm not gonna lie. And with that, guys, I'm gonna get the hell out of here and start making dinner because my stomach is a rumbling. I'm trying to play a little bit of Yankee and a little bit of Southern and twisting my tongue as I do it. But this was fun, and I was gonna actually probably wait till Friday to do this, but I'm glad that I did it today. I'm gonna get back into it. I'm gonna start putting this shit out because I've got a million ideas brimming about some edited videos. I just gotta put a voice to it. So I do expect my Patreon to be booming quite soon. And with that, y'all have a wonderful rest of your day.